And for more on the potential of the National Guard coming to Chicago, we welcome in business owner and resident Daniel Siegel. He is owner of the HMS Property Group. Daniel, it's great to have you in studio.
Thank you for having me.
Being here. You know, I wanted to start with your reaction to what we're seeing out there in Chicago on the ground right now. You know, this firm stance against the potential of a National Guard troop deployment. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are, when I look at the protests going on in Chicago, is that the protesters aren't really engaged on the ground in these communities. And that is part of the issue, is that people are not living and breathing in these communities. Now, I started a business on the south side of Chicago 10 years ago, revitalizing vacant homes. And I think when you engage in the communities, you get to learn a little bit of a different picture about the reality of the situation on the ground.
Well, to your point, I want to talk to you about that, because you had mentioned that this potential deployment would be a great thing, especially for low and middle income residents. So why do you believe that to be the case for those residents in particular?
Well, because we don't have enough manpower on the ground. And we have policy in this city that does not support cops, and it does not support crime prevention. So any extra help could help. And I think the National Guard could really do a great service for the city of Chicago, especially lower income tenants that live in our buildings. They deal with crime on a daily basis. They're dealing with homicides. They're dealing with carjackings. They're dealing with petty crime, theft, homicides behind our alley, people shot and killed. This is a daily experience for our tenants on the south side of Chicago.
Well, I want to push back and ask you, because, you know, we've heard the counter argument even earlier on in the program, being this is political theater, this is intimidating residents, this isn't a good thing for the people who live here. And there are a couple of other strong points that they make, that murders and some of the major crime stats you're seeing on your screen now, murder, shooting incidents, robbery, they're all down. You know, so what are your thoughts on the pushback that we're hearing now from not only politicians, but some people on the ground, as you see there as well?
Well, I am very encouraged by the statistics that crime is down, especially homicides. But again, crime is still very, very high. Can I tell a difference from this year to last? Yes. But still, there are people being gunned down in the city of Chicago, and it's still an issue, and the police force is still underpowered. And we have policy, like sanctuary city policy, that aids and abets criminals, specifically transnational gangs like the Tren de Aragua, who have come into these neighborhoods and overtaken buildings and set up sex and drug trafficking operations. This is going on in Chicago, and I think a lot of people, especially protesters and politicians, do not understand that.
Well, we did speak with a former NYPD lieutenant commander about this. He talked a little bit more about the people who get hurt with this type of crime. Here's a clip.
It amazes me that they'll fight the president on this when crime is out of control there. No matter how you slice it or dice it, they have numbers that are unacceptable. And the people that pay the price are the residents, are the hardworking people that are out there in the streets every day. People want to go to dinner. They can't even go to dinner. And it takes a toll on the residents.
So you shared some pretty crazy video with us, I think you could say. This is from one of your buildings, a man running with an AK-47 style weapon. You have another video of an armed man approaching your building and its residents. Can you share with us a little bit more of what you've seen, how these gangs and crime groups have come into neighborhoods, many of which are low income, and made things worse? What are residents telling you?
Well, this is a perfect example of what can happen on a daily basis in these neighborhoods. One of our maintenance men was getting off of work, and he had a couple $100s in cash. And these two individuals, I believe they were teenage or adolescent individuals, were brandishing AK-47s and stuck up one of our maintenance guys who had a couple $100s of cash. So this is life in these areas. You have to be very careful, and it does affect our tenants as well. They've been stuck up by these same individuals. Luckily, the police did get them out of the neighborhood. But this was an ongoing occurrence for weeks where these individuals were not found, and they terrorized our building.
Yeah.
It was very unfortunate.
Well, I want to ask you also, you know, a lawmaker we had on earlier today, he had mentioned that the solution is investments in jobs, education, healthcare, public safety strategies that empower communities. We've heard these ideas echoed from the mayor as well. You know, what are your thoughts on some of those solutions?
Well, those are great ideas and great solutions, but the problem is crime. Those things will not get better unless we solve the crime problem. And you're not going to see an improvement in schools. You're not going to see massive healthcare improvements until you get the crime down, because the crime has an effect on everything. There are blighted buildings. There are businesses that go out of business constantly because they cannot continue. So if you want to solve the problem of affordable housing in Chicago, of the lack of businesses in Chicago, you have to stop the crime first. And that's what's so frustrating about this.
So what is your message to the mayor and the governor of the state? You know, we hear them repeatedly making these arguments. What would you say to them if you had 5 minutes?
Well, I would tell them, you know, obviously they don't like Donald Trump, but my dad had an old phrase that he always used to say to me, is that a broken clock is right twice a day. And even though you might not like Donald Trump, sometimes he's right about certain issues, and he's been proven right to be on the border, and I think he would be proven right if they cooperated with the National Guard on crime like they're doing in D.C. So give it a chance. I don't think they will, but, you know.
Yeah. Well, we'll be staying tuned. We're watching it all transpire live, have minute-by-minute updates. Thank you very much, David Siegel, for your perspective. It's unique, and for sharing it with us this evening. We appreciate it. Yeah, great to have you.
Okay.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.